Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is my grandfather.
Hello, I'm Bob Smith. Hannah asked me to discuss the current situation in Syria with her, so first I'll ask, what do you know about the current situation in Syria?
Right now in Syria, there's a huge movement, and it's referred to as Arab Spring. It's a protest that's been going on because a lack of freedom, political corruption, no democracy, and Bashar al-Assad is,
He's the Syrian president, I think,
yeah,
is his title.
He's a dictator, though, basically, and he's taken over after his father. And his father was in rule for a very long time. Once he passed it on to Bashar, and their family's been in rule for probably 40 years now. And that's caused a huge problem because they are a Shia minority, which means they are of the lesser portion in Libya or in Syria. So the rest of Syria is basically Sunni, which means they're a majority. So there's major conflict.
Yep. When you say major conflict, what is actually going on over there? Right
Bashar has taken it to limits where he's been killing people, and he's taken it to where it's gotten violent, and that
it's had pretty heavy violence. So what, in your opinion, is something that the U.S. Or the United Nations should do to respond to that?
I think that we should send aid over there, but we need to be careful of how hard we push sending aid over there. Whether it be military aid, then I think we should be careful because we are already stationed in other countries in the Middle East, so I think it would be dangerous at the same time as well, but it could help.
Yeah, there's always, I guess, a danger of getting spread too thin, and particularly with the United States, we've had a lot of wars going on lately in Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that. We're probably getting a little tired of that.
Yeah.
So, would your suggestion then be to send military aid to the population that's revolting against al-Assad? Or are you talking about sending direct military intervention where United States troops would go over there?
I think we should send military troops over there because I think Bashar al-Assad, if he's killing people, I think he needs to be found, and I think he should be killed, but we need to do that carefully, basically.
All right. Would you suggest trying to do that in conjunction with the United Nations?
That depends, because the United Nations, I think they could send over medical aid or humanitarian aid to help the people that are being hurt and killed, and that could help them, and then the U.S. be responsible for our military aid.
I think one of the things with problems with United Nations aid is that the United Nations is set up with certain countries having a right to veto action, and both China and Russia are somewhat favorable to Syria, and it would probably be difficult
to get them to agree with
I think so.
Because they would veto it.
So one of the things that we probably, if we want to get involved in trying to assist militarily, my guess is that it's probably going to be easier to do it by sending arms to the people who are actually engaged in the revolt against al-Assad. That's just a thought on that. What else might we be doing, or what do you think we could be doing?
We could be getting out of the other countries to go support Syria, and there's also been conflict with Libya and other countries over in the Middle East. So with all that conflict, I think it's a really risky thing to do, but it's something that I think should be done so we don't have as much conflict.
One of the things that I think would be of concern is, again, not only are we a little war weary, but it's a little tough to go into Syria because Syria is it's a pretty powerful military in its own right, and it's certainly a strong ally with Iran, which has a very strong military. Do you think that there would be a risk of escalating any military intervention to where it would get to be a bigger war? Would that
Yeah.
be something
I think that there could be like people that team up with Syria
like
or another
Iran?
country, yeah, exactly, and they could team up against us, and that would cause
Does that make you
huge
want to?
outbreak.
Does that make you want to rethink sending direct military
Yes.
intervention and maybe do it through the people that are revolting?
Yeah,
Okay.
it makes me really,
What would your thoughts be about
taking like
strong financial sanctions like we're trying to do with Iran?
sanctions. I think would be a good idea because it could get Syria in line with everything, and like I think they could shape it up and like
Okay.
if we did send sanctions.
One question about this is, what do you think would happen if al-Assad does get overthrown?
And I think that would open up a lot of doors to having, like, creating a new government, such as like taking, like, the dictator. They've had like a dictatorship for so long. I think like with all the problems that have occurred so like in the past couple years, that I think they should try something new, like opening up free and fair elections to people, and like that could give everyone else a say instead of having the dictators and always being. I think that could help Syria a lot if like they had they had freedom rights and a say in government.
One of the things that I think the United States has to be careful of, though, is sometimes in the aftermath of a political uprising like that, when there's a popular election, it's not necessarily true that they elect somebody who likes the United States better.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that happened in Egypt, where the powers that be were kind of affiliated with a fairly aggressive political party called the Muslim Brotherhood. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, we've talked about that
Okay.
a little bit in class.
So, do you think the United States should have a role in trying to influence the elections in these countries, or do you think that we should just let them go
I think
and
that
we
they
figure
should
out how
be
to do
able.
it?
I think they should figure out how to do it as a country, because like then they'll all be like understanding it together and not having someone else tell them how to run their country.
Right.
Because then it could work out better for them. Who knows? Like, I
Yeah.
just think it could open up a lot of doors for them, and then a lot of the conflict would go down.
Have you run across or had any involvement with the role of women in some of the Middle East countries? Have you talked about that at all?
A little bit, not much.
That in a lot of the Middle East countries, for religious reasons, they don't have full rights for women.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Again,
understand that.
do you think that in the Syrian situation, do you think that if there is a successful revolution, do you think that women will have a better role in a government over there? Or do you hope so, or what?
I mean, I feel like it depends all on their religion, because I feel like the whole woman, like I feel like the men being more dominant than women, I feel like that's more of like a religious look on things. So like I think that I would hope it would fix things, but
You're willing to give it time? It'll take a while?
yeah, but I don't know, who knows, because they're so set in the Middle East. I know that like women have their own role and men have their own role, so it's like I think that would be more difficult. It could take a lot of time.
How are your thoughts on what we should do in the Middle East, shaped by your own experiences in life?
We have a different government, so I think like free and fair elections has like helped shape my opinion on Syria, because I always hear about people like, oh yeah, I'm gonna vote for this person, and they like have a right to all these they have all these rights, and like Syrians, they don't have all these rights because they're in a dictatorship. So.
Okay. I saw, or somebody suggested that it might be appropriate to even try to assassinate Bashar al-Assad. Do you think that that would be appropriate for the United States to try to do that?
I don't know necessarily if the United States should be involved in assassinating him. I feel like they should help encourage them to get rid of him in the government. But I don't think we should personally go over there and do their work for them. I think like they have a big enough uprising that eventually he will be found, and I think he will be killed.
I wonder if you even know this. From my generation, do you know what the biggest war and problem was?
No.
For my generation?
World War II?
No, not World War II.
I don't know.
Did you ever hear of Vietnam?
Yeah,
Do you think that might have been the war of my generation?
maybe.
It was, yes.
Okay.
That's when I was of military age. I was just going to mention that before, right before we got deeply embroiled in Vietnam, we, as a country, tried assassinating the regime in South Vietnam, and basically, I guess what I was saying is that didn't work out well for us.
No, that would cause conflict over here, and then we would get dragged into war with them. And then
Well, but I'm saying that the
I feel
concept of assassinating, it didn't even work out for us in terms of who came in afterwards, because sometimes when you try to pick and choose a single person in power, they end up with being corrupt like al-Assad too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, like al-Assad, he has the whole entire government on his side from what we've learned. Like he has a government, or the military, that's what I meant to say.
Right.
He has the whole military on his side because they're still like, they still listen to him and stuff. So like, they're the ones with all the weapons, and they're the ones that are killing all the people. So like, I don't understand how the people are supposed to fight back against the military that's being like told to do what from a dictator. So how do they fight back to that military?
Well, usually they need help from foreign countries. You know, the United States was in our own revolution. We got a lot of help from France. Right?
That's why we would have to step in. But I just think it's a really big risk if we did, because like I think we should get out of the other countries. I'm still on that.
Okay, so do you think Syria has more importance than, let's say, Afghanistan or anything like that?
Not necessarily. I just think that we've spent so much time over in Afghanistan and all those other countries. Eventually, they have gotten better over the years, I think.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Well, and Syria does have.
Do they have people that are like willing to help them other than us?
Well, of course, we have a bunch of allies, and probably most of the world would support uprisings against dictators in the Middle East. But I think the significance of Syria is they're situated right next to Israel too, which is one of our #1 allies.
Mm-hmm.
So we would probably like to see a more friendly government if possible in Syria.
Yeah.
The conflict between
Hasn't Afghanistan threatened to like go over and bomb Israel?
Iran right now is the one that's the biggest threat over there, and the tension between Iran and Israel right now is probably the most significant international tension that we have. And of course, Syria's aligned with Iran. Iran is Shia.
Yeah.
It's one of the rare majority Shia areas. And then, of course, we're really aligned with Israel. So it's a very important area, and I think it's terrific that you guys are going into it and studying it and know so much about it. So.
Okay, we're good.
I don't know. We'll see.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.